Hi Dave, this is Jody from Be Lovely Botanicals. We want to thank you for adopting a hive, and this is your first hive update. We've had the bees here in our yard for I think about 3 weeks now, and most of them are looking pretty good. We are replacing a lot of our equipment this year. We put a couple frames that were drawn out from last year, but the rest of them are going to be all new, just in case the pesticides. Now see, these guys are a little bit more excited than some of our other hives, but they're also getting a little bit more done too.
I didn't smoke it at all.
Oh, well, some of the pesticide, the residue can be stored in the wax, so we're replacing most of the frames just to make sure. So we really like our bees and we want them to do well. We're also going to move them up to a place where there's not really any pesticides, just most of them, just to give them the best shot that we can. We've talked to a lot of beekeepers this year, and a lot of beekeepers lost their bees. It wasn't even the winter. Everybody said their bees were looking really bad or died by fall. So we're not sure what happened, but it was through the entire country. We've talked to beekeepers who take their bees to California. We talked to beekeepers in Georgia, Nashville, Ohio. Everybody had a really rough year last year. So this is a pretty nice frame here. They've drawn this out. This is the wax foundation down here, and all of this is brood. So Queen Theresa is doing an awesome job for us. I'm not sure if you can see, it's hard to get that camera focused, but right down in here, these are eggs, and then you can see here, these are little worms, pupa, larva. Yep. So the egg, it's going to be an egg for 3 days, and then it's going to hatch into a little worm, and what they're going to do is feed the worm royal jelly, honey, and a little bit of pollen, and then the worm's going to kind of spin a cocoon, and that's what these are, these cappings. That's the capping of the cocoon. And then I think it's 21 days for a worker bee?
21 days for a worker.
When the worker bee is ready, after about 21 days, she'll chew through that outer layer of the cocoon and crawl out. The first thing that she does is clean up the cell that she came out of, so the queen can come and lay another egg in it. You can see here there's eggs and more larvae. This is where the queen had laid some eggs before, and these have already hatched. And she usually starts kind of in the center of the frame and works her way out. So typically you'll see like this, where the center has hatched already and then the outsides haven't. And then all the way around the very top edge, you can see that they've got a little bit of pollen, a little bit of nectar around the top of this frame.
So right now we're just starting to see the bees hatch out. We got home on, I think it was the 14th or 15th. We installed the bees. The queen was still left in the queen cage for approximately 3 days, 3 to 4 days. That was so the bees could get used to her. And then she didn't lay eggs right away. She kind of got used to her new environment as well, and she started laying eggs probably a couple days after that. So you start adding up all those days, and we're just starting to see, we're just about to the 3-week period where the queen would be starting to or the bees would just start having new bees hatch out.
So we're just getting into the building up period. On this frame you can see, this must have been a foundationless frame.
Nah, it kind of looks like it maybe was.
So we do different, we use plastic in some of our frames, some of them we use a wax foundation. This one I think we use foundationless, which we glue popsicle sticks down in the bottom just to kind of give the bees an idea of which way to build the comb. But then they're going to do whatever they want. If you look in the center here, these are bigger cells. That's going to be, the queen's going to measure that and realize that that's a bigger cell, and she's going to lay an unfertilized egg, which turns into a drone. Around the edge here, these are smaller cells, but you can see like this here, this is a worker cell and she fits right in there. These two are drone cells, and you can see they kind of had to build out a little bit because the drones are so much bigger. Drones kind of get a bad rap sometimes. They don't work, they don't make honey. Their main purpose is to mate with the queen. They also help with hive temperature regulation and hormone regulation. They do play an important part though. If you lose your queen, you can make a new queen if you have eggs from another hive or if there's eggs left in the hive. But that queen isn't going to be mated, so she's not going to be able to lay any worker eggs unless she flies out of the hive and mates with drones. So it's important to keep a healthy population of drones so that when the colonies need to requeen, there are enough drones that she can get properly mated and build up the colony quickly. Usually the queen is more toward the center. We'll take a look on this end frame and see what we have. A little bit more nectar, a few more drones. Oh, this frame's hard. So this one has some honey, some capped honey on the side, and you can see.
Oh, right there she is.
Oh, yeah, she's marked.
Try to zoom in so you can see her. She's kind of fast. Not as good.
And there's
point. Oh, there she is. I got her.
There's Queen Theresa. So usually when you buy a package, it costs a couple dollars extra to get the queen marked. We typically tend to buy ours unmarked just to save a little bit of money. But they must have ran out of unmarked queens. Queen Theresa came marked for us, and every year is a different color so that you can tell the age of the queen. We typically just tend to mark ours in bright pink or what do you like? Yellow. Josh can see certain colors better, so that's the colors that we use regardless of the year. So, there she crawled through the crack. Kind of like to get this frame back together a little bit.
Oh, there she is right there. Don't push it down now. She's in there.
Oh, well, I'll just leave it and we'll just slide that back in there and let her do her thing.
Yeah, usually the queen's not on the very last frame, although like we said, we put mostly new foundation on, and some of the older ones that actually were drawn out already were on the outside, so she maybe is just utilizing those more because they're already drawn out. But those will be the first ones that get filled up with honey. What they'll do is they'll once those hatch, eventually just kind of start closing themselves in from the sides and start filling it with honey so that they have honey to store, and then it also acts like a good insulation as well.
And this is another frame. She's doing a really good job. She's got a really nice good brood pattern. You can see she didn't miss a lot of cells. Sometimes they'll pull some out if there is a mite in there, or if the genetics weren't quite right with that bee. They'll pull it out before it hatches. And here's a drone right here. You can tell him. Can you get him?
No, I can try.
Oh, they flew away. The drones are typically quite a bit bigger, and they have a fuzzy butt. They don't have a stinger, and they have really, really big eyes. Let's see if we can find another one in here.
So we're, like Jody said, we're going to be moving these up to a place that we're hoping has virtually no spraying. We really are concerned, I think, mostly about pesticides at this point. We can control varroa mites, we can control nosema, but the sprays that we're seeing in our area, we really have no control over that. So the only thing we can do is move our hives out of the area where there's so much spraying going on and see how that plays out. So the next time that you see your hive, it's going to be a new spot. Usually we don't like to have our hives right on the ground. It kind of impedes circulation, but we kind of wanted to get them in their box right away when we got home. So they'll be up on a hive stand where they get a little bit better ventilation, and they'll also have a second box on top, and that second box will just be more room for them to grow, to add more wax on, and then get more bees, pollen, nectar, and all that stuff. That still will not be any honey that we'll be collecting. That will still be just for the bees. So
So here's a drone right here, and you can see how different he looks from all the worker bees. He's quite a bit bigger, and like I said, his butt is round and fuzzy. He doesn't have a stinger. And if you look at his eyes, they're really big, kind of on the top of his head. And something else to notice about this frame, if you look all around the outside is kind of a ring of honey, and then there's a little bit of pollen inside of that ring, and then in the center is the brood. That's really what you like to see. That's typical of the way that bees work when they're doing a good job. That is because the brood, especially the worker brood, it can get chilled and then they'll die. So they like to put honey and pollen, and sometimes drone brood, which there is a little bit of that kind of around the edge here, around the worker brood. So that kind of acts as an insulation to protect the workers, because without the workers the hive will dwindle down and die. So Queen Theresa's doing an excellent job for us. This one here, this is something else kind of interesting. This is propolis. You can see it's getting kind of warm and sticky. This is what the bees use to seal their hive, and some hives really like a lot of propolis. They'll just stick everything down with it. That's why we use a hive tool. But the reason that they use it to seal their hive is because it's antibacterial, antiviral, and antifungal. So it helps to keep infection out of their hive as well. And those properties are also really good for your skin, which is why we use it in our products. So, and here's one of the new frames that we put in. They're building this out a little bit funny. I prefer that they built it out nice and straight, but I guess it's not totally up to me. This side's a little better. They seem to, when we use the plastic foundation, it's nice because it's a little bit easier for us to work with in the frames, and it's really, really sturdy. But the bees don't seem to like it as well, so we kind of do a mix of wax, foundationless, and plastic.
Yeah, what we replaced, we had some, when you buy the frames, and you can use the same frames over and over again as long as they're not broken up, it's the pesticides and that is held in the wax. So if you replace that foundation, you're getting rid of most of the junk some people say that the wax is like the hive's kidneys. So you replace that wax, you're getting rid of the junk that the hive was accumulating through the years and giving them a fresh start. And then the frames, if it was a plastic foundation, we can pop that out, put a new piece in. So it makes it a little bit easier for us to do, whereas the wax foundation is a little bit more time consuming, but they do a much better job with that. And again, like we said, we were replacing a lot of our stuff this year, and it just wasn't cost effective at this point too.
You can see right here the bees gather pollen. They have a little basket on their hind legs and they stuff it full. And here's a little ball of pollen that bee must have dropped out of its pollen basket. You can see them working with that. What they'll do is take that and mix it with a little bit of honey and pack it in a cell, and then they use that to feed the baby bees. So Queen Theresa's doing an excellent job for us. I'm going to put this back together. This will be your first hive update. We really appreciate the support. And if you have any questions, or if there's something that you've just been dying to know about bees, we'd love to hear about it. Give us an email and we'll try to answer all your questions in the next hive update. So thank you very much.
Yep. Also, the next hive update is going to be a little bit farther, about 3 to 4 weeks. That'll give the hive some time to kind of have a little bit more to see. If we did the next hive update right away, it would look about the same. So you're going to have 4 hive updates. So by the end of the summer, even if we did just one a month right now, you'll really get a good sense of what the beehives are doing. And hopefully the next time you'll see a lot more wax foundation drawn out. You'll see a lot more honey in the cells.
A lot more bees.
A lot more bees. Right now we're still probably around the maybe 12 to 13,000 bees in there. And come the next one, hopefully we'll see at least it doubled, around 20, 25,000. Ultimately, what we want to see before the end of summer is around 60,000 bees. So, and my wife's just sitting there happy that I'm taping, apparently.
I'm hoping you're taping my face the way the camera's pointed. So
I am.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks a lot.
Till next time.